All right, district breakdown time, 26A. We're talking with Jon Poorman from the Houston Chronicle. Jon, we talked about the Katy district last week and how Katy always makes the playoffs. Bridgepoint always seems to win that district as well in 26A. But I don't think the gap between them and Hightower, again, last year I said I wasn't dumb, or last week I said I wasn't dumb. I'm not going to pick against Bridgepoint winning the district title, but man, Hightower is right there, and they probably have two of the at least top five athletes in that district, if not the state, with Dallas Payne and Zion Kearney.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what Ridgepoint has done historically over, the past decade, and it's just winning, winning, and more winning. And since Coach Rick Favors has taken over this program, they've continued to do so, piling up district titles. They were 8-0 in the district last year. That was one game better than Hightower at 7-1. So I would expect more of the same. Last week I made the bold prediction that the Katy Tigers would make the playoffs.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna go out on another limb and say that Ridgepoint is going to get back in the playoffs in 2023. Obviously, they've got to be the district title favorite. Hightower, though, as you mentioned, they've got a lot of great athletes. Jeremy Payne is an outstanding running back. They have a returning quarterback in JoJo Stewart, and Oklahoma commit and Zion Kearney at wide receiver. So they have plenty of firepower, and I would expect this district title to come down to those two teams once again this year.
If it comes down to those two, I mean, we still got two other spots. Who else do you think is going to fight through there? Last year it was George Ranch in Clements, but who do you think this year? Do you think Travis might get back in there?
Yeah, Travis has certainly got a chance. They finished one spot out of the playoffs last year, so I could definitely see them being in the mix. George Ranch is always just really solid. Even going back to the year they won a state championship, they've just always been solid. So I would expect for them to be in the mix. And then Clements, in recent years has been kind of right on the fringe there. And of course, they got into the playoffs last year and did some good things throughout the season. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking at these teams coming back from last year. Dulles was only one game behind Travis at 3-5 in district play, and so if one of these teams can kind of jump up and win some games, maybe they're not expected to, then maybe they could get into the mix here. But I think clearly Ridgepoint and Hightower are the clear number 1 and 2, and then George Ranch, Clements, Travis is who I would expect to compete for those final 2 spots there.
Yeah, it should be a good race. I guess the big question for Fort Bend ISD fans is, will Hall Stadium be back in action this year after the renovations from last year? I guess that's a question for Shannon Wright out there to figure out. But we're ready for games to be back at Hall, especially in this district, especially that Ridgepoint Hightower game. Throw that game over there. Let's see the new renovations and see a quality game there. I obviously owe an apology to Jeremy Payne for calling him Dallas there at the beginning. I had Dallas glass on the brain for some reason, but we're in a completely different district, and that dude graduated anyway. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, Jeremy Payne, amazing athlete. I believe he was the MVP of this district last year. He's going to sign with a Division I program at some point. He's kind of he's been kind of the catalyst for this offense over the past couple of seasons. I would expect more of the same. It's one of those deals where you have a high caliber running back like that in the backfield that it really can open things up for the passing game as well. And as I mentioned, Hightower has plenty of options in that aspect of their offense as well. And as I said before, with Ridgepoint, you got to like what they are bringing back. Ashton Bethel Roman is one of the top recruits in the state at wide receiver. They have a returning quarterback in Austin Carlisle there. So, they're going to be right in the mix as well for this district title. I'm really excited to see that game in particular. This is one of the games for sure that I'm going to have marked on the calendar, that we're going to have somebody out there covering it. And, I might be enticed to get up out of my office chair and go out and check out that one if I can. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how this all plays out here.
Another bold prediction. We're going to get him out of the chair. This is unbelievable.
You know, I might get out of the chair. You know, I have a lot of responsibilities, Ward. So, you know,
I know a little one keeps you in that chair for a while until she grows up. So I do know the Hightower Ridge Point game was on a Saturday last year. I don't know if it was scheduled on a Saturday or rain pushed it over there, but if it's on a Friday night now, I'll definitely find a way to get to it. Saturdays are a little bit difficult for me, but still, it's going to be quality. And I love the fact that 19-6A plays 26A in the playoffs. So it's usually a solid first round game for those top two teams from Ridge Point and Hightower. They're going to get challenged right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, we saw that last year with Ridge Point, you know, narrowly beating Tompkins in that first round playoff game last year. I mean, that was it almost didn't seem fair that two teams of that quality were playing each other in the first round, but you know, that's just how the districts stack up. So I would expect, you know, some even more competitive games in the early rounds of the playoffs next season as well.
Absolutely. All right, we're moving down to 21-6A next week. You know who we're going to talk about there. And you know who we won't talk about, which is John Kay, because he's moved on to Rice. So let's get your thoughts on the new head coach there at North Shore, and we'll talk 21-6A next week.
Sounds good.